I see you joining in. Good morning, everyone. We'll get started in just a minute once we have everyone settled in. Please grab yourselves tea, coffee. We'll be kicking off momentarily. Good morning, leaders, and welcome to the third webinar of our GCC Leadership Series. We're thrilled to have each one of you here as we continue this journey of understanding how India's GCCs are stepping up into their era of impact, innovation, and global leadership. In our first two webinars, we explored how India's unique strengths, culture, capability, and talent ambition are shaping the global GCC landscape. Today, we take that conversation into the future because the world we're building for is one where AI, automation, and digital disruption are rewriting the rules of work. And the real question in front of us is, are our organizations ready for what's coming next? That's what brings us to today's theme, Future Ready GCCs, learning, adapting, and thriving in the AI era. And with that, I'm Tanya Daryani, the consulting analyst at Great Place to Work, India, and your host for today's session. Over the next hour, we'll explore how GCCs can blend human potential with AI capability, building organizations where continuous learning is the bridge between today's skills and tomorrow's opportunities. Now, before we dive into today's conversation on how AI is reshaping capability, culture, and leadership inside GCCs, let's warm up, shall we, with a quick one-word activity. If you had to describe what it will take for GCCs to thrive in the AI era in just one word, what word would that be? Let's think ambition, some agility, learning, maybe a little courage, experimentation, empowerment, loads of data, right? Some curiosity also. Please feel free to drop your one word in the chat. Lovely. I'm seeing capability, of course. Adaption, revolution. Absolutely. Now, your words perfectly so to set the tone for today because they aren't just responses, they're actually the building blocks of the workplaces that we all aspire to create. And interestingly, these very words echo shaping a much larger conversation happening very soon, which brings me to something really exciting, which I'd love to share with you. On the 10th of February 2026, at Fairmont, Mumbai, CEOs, CHROs, and culture champions will come together to reimagine the future of work. It's where bold conversations meet practical insights, grounded in data, stories, and the lived experiences of India's best workplaces. And honestly, of course, we'd love to see many of you in that room with us. That being said, I'm thrilled to reveal the theme for this year's summit, the Great Adaptation, where change means opportunity. It's a theme that speaks volumes to the moment we are in, right? Where agility, ownership, and innovation are no longer optional but truly essential. To give you a glimpse of what's in store, here are a few moments from our past editions. Immersive formats, unfiltered conversations, and ideas that stay with you long after the summit. And of course, a summit is only as strong as, as its voices, isn't it? This feels like the absolutely perfect moment to share with you our first set of confirmed speakers for All Summit 2026. Last time, we promised you that the For All Summit 2026 lineup would only get bigger. We began with Pramod Basin, and today we are excited to add more incredible voices. Guru Charan Das, C.P. Gurnani, Dr. Santrupt Mishra, and Siddha Dasgupta. From business icons to thought leaders, this is a stage you'll definitely want to be a part of. And that's just the beginning, truly. More speakers will be revealed soon. There's more to come, but we couldn't resist giving you the sneak peek, right? Everyone loves a teaser, correct? And we have a feeling many of you are already thinking, this is something I'd want to be a part of. Just take a second to please respond to the poll that will come up shortly on your screen. This will help us reach out with early access, priority invites, and speaker updates. Requesting everyone to please take 2 seconds and respond to the poll. Thank you for your responses, and we can't wait to see you at the summit. Now let's bring back to the focus to why we are here today, right? We have an incredible panel lined up to help us decode what AI means for GCC leadership, culture, and capability building. It's time to introduce our speakers. Please join me in welcoming our first panelist, Anand Mohan Raman. He is the managing director at Mr. Cooper. With nearly 3 decades of experience across digital transformation and technology led business innovation, he has led major transformation programs at Singapore Post, spent 12 plus years heading the global e commerce practice at Infosys, and today drives end to end product led transformation at Mr. Cooper. And this is not all. Anand is the co founder of Mataram Foundation and an avid mathematics blogger. Welcome, Anand. Our next panelist is Shalini Pillai. She leads the GCC practice at KPMG India, helping global organizations build high impact, future ready capability centers. With close to 30 years of experience across consulting, strategy, and HR, she has been a part of KPMG India's leadership team and board, shaping talent, culture, and operating models across sectors. Welcome, Shalini. It's an honor to have the both of you here with us today. We also have with us Anita Borate, of course, who heads brand and research at Great Place to Work India. Since 2009, she has led the organization's insights and thought leadership agenda, working closely with leaders to strengthen trust-based, high-performing workplace cultures. A quick note for our audience, please. We'll be taking audience Q&A at the end, so please feel free to drop them on the chat. Now, over to you, Anita. Looking forward to an insightful conversation.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for that warm welcome. And thank you to Anand and Shalini both for joining us today. I think very glad to see the kind of audience that has shown up. We're all looking forward to a very insightful conversation. I'm pretty sure they're going to go back with some learnings that everyone can take back to their workplaces today. Now, before I go into the details of how AI will shape GCCs, and before we go deeper into culture, talent, and transformation, I wanted to start with something very broad. So, this first question is to both Anand and Shalini. From where you sit, what does thriving in the AI era actually mean for a GCC today? And how do you think that definition is evolving? So maybe we can start with Shalini and then go to Anand perhaps. Shalini, over to you.
Hey, sure. Hi, Anita, and a very good morning to everyone dialing in today. Pleasure to be on this session. Yes, a theme actually, Anita, that much has been spoken about, thriving in the AI era. I'm not going to attempt to summarize it in one word, as actually many of our folks from the audience very nicely managed to do. I do believe that in this next wave of GCCs, there are a bunch of things that this could be interpreted to mean. Firstly, really making an impact and thriving means you've got to be a GCC that is truly empowered, that has visibility and context of the real business value chain. And you should be in a position to make that impact. So that's the first point I'd make, which is be in a good empowered position with the right sponsorship. The second bit is have your basic fundamentals right, be it data or process maturity, without which you will only experiment in the AI era. You will not be able to make an impact at scale and hence thrive. But if you've got those two pieces in place, there's nothing stopping you from truly thriving as a GCC in this AI era to come.
Thank you for that note, Shalini. Anand, if you could share your thoughts too from your experience and also tell us how do you think that definition is likely to evolve or how have you seen it evolve so far?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Good morning, everyone. To add to what Shalini mentioned, GCCs have evolved over a period of time now. So while AI, we had AI in different avatars in the past. I started as a developer, so we have used robot testing and all of that. In some sense, that was machine learning, right? So AI, it's not completely new, but clearly there is an opportunity as we move into the next decade, as we move from a more of a cost arbitrage back office kind of a model to a value proposition model. Few things which are pretty important as we move forward for success of AI in a GCC setup. Given that we work for a parent group, we are connected with the parent group. One, the business domain, understanding the business of business. Uh, More importantly, we need to embed AI across the enterprise. AI is not technology driven. It needs to be more business and ops driven as well. And to Shalini's point, consolidating the data is going to be very important. Without data, AI is just a front end for me, right? And getting the data assets together. Last but not the least, have a good governance and data security around this. While we can try a lot of new things, if we fail on data governance or data information or data protection or information security, then it becomes an issue. And that's an opportunity space again for GCCs to really invent further as we move forward.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Shalini and Anand. In fact, my next question is kind of related to and building on what both of you shared. So, my next question is to you, Shalini. I think you've had a fantastic journey, so inspiring for everyone who's been, looking forward to this conversation as well. We know you've moved from leading HR to now shaping strategy for global GCCs. From that journey, Shalini, what have been some people-centric insights, or if there's any one people-centric insight that has become your biggest strategic advantage in the AI era? Because we're noticing everyone is trying to decode, AI and human interaction at work. But what insight has helped you the most, Shalini? Shalini, if you could unmute, please.
It
Yes.
is a very interesting question, Anita. And yes, I've had the opportunity as a person who was in the business consulting space to actually move on to head HR for the firm and then come back into business to now lead the GCC space for KPMG. So I will definitely say that that experience of leading the people agenda taught me a few things. And the GCC business has been a very headcount intensive, a very people centric business. One does argue, of course, to say that now that mantra has been about doing more with less. And one does kind of wonder whether the people focus or the intensity might see a little dip. Well, I do believe what we would see in years to come is going to be a model that will leverage technology much better. So it's not going to be about armies of people, but people being deployed very effectively to drive the impact one is seeing. So if I relate to what really works, having seen and driven the people agenda closely, and in today's era, like Anand said, GCCs coming in today are coming in very, very purposefully to set up centers with a very clear mandate. You're not coming in to do tons of back office operational work. You're coming to create deep capabilities with a very clear purpose and vision aligned to what the global enterprise wants to achieve. And that sense of purpose, I would take it to the people centricity part of it as well. If people see the purpose of why they're joining an organization and are part of a GCC, they're going to be truly effective. So if you feel part of the purpose with which the GCC has been set up, you can see yourself contributing to that purpose. It really comes together very powerfully. So I would like to reiterate that bit, because for GCCs, that sense of purpose and focus aligns to how people need to see it, and they need to link their individual outcomes and KRAs to that of the GCC, which in turn links to what the global enterprise wants to realize. If you've got that right and you have that vision and that visibility, your ability to then leverage technology, AI, whatever else then comes our way, you're going to be much more effective. So I'd like to just highlight that one aspect that strikes me.
Tanya, in fact, you touched upon so many critical points, whether it's about alignment to the larger organizational goal, going beyond the GCC that one might be leading or be a part of, also to building the right domain expertise, the kind of alignment of goals to the larger organization. But our leader definitely plays a very critical role in whether employees or the associates that are supporting the organization see that alignment or no. Are they experiencing a sense of purpose and belonging with all the technology and AI disruptions around them? So follow up to you, Shalini, is that given the leaders that you might have groomed across your journey throughout the years, which leadership behaviors do you feel matter the most given the current context of GCCs?
Could rattle off a bunch of things, Anita, but a couple that to me are very, very critical. One is the ability of a leader to think a little ahead of the curve. So to anticipate what's coming your way, to be very acutely aware of the macroeconomic environment, the technology environment. So you're thinking two steps ahead. And very, very critical is agility. So the agility with which you're willing to then undo, redo, unlearn, and relearn is going to be really critical. This GCC model, it's been around for the last 2.5, 3 decades, honestly. But the last 5 years and the last 2 years have seen some very dramatic changes in the model, in the operating model. And I think the next 3 years is going to continue to transform that model quite significantly. So, how agile are you to keep pace with those changes, to rewire, remodel yourselves, to realign? Because sometimes the real test is in how quickly you can unlearn and relearn a few things. And I think a leader who can do that, who can ensure that that agility is reflected in the operating model of the GCC, will be truly successful. So, like I said, thinking ahead of the curve, agility, and the third would be, of course, to carry your teams with you. That sense of purpose and that rewiring that you do has to be understood by everyone, and you need to carry the team along with you. I think those would be three that are top of the mind for me.
Thank you for that insight, Shalini. Now, my next question is to you, Anand. And one thing we know about you is that you're a passionate mathematics blogger, apart from being a very experienced senior leader in the country. So I wanted to bring the mathematics lens in for a bit. Now, if you had to translate one mathematical principle into a leadership principle for building future-ready GCCs, what would that be?
Yeah, thanks for that context. And yeah, Max always continues to amaze us, right? So it teaches us a lot. Just that if we were taught a bit differently back in school days, maybe it would have got more interesting rather than formulas and theorems. Anyway, coming back to that, there are a couple of things that come to my mind. I know you asked for one. If I have to, I'll list two of them. One, for me, it's the principle of compounding. We've all done compound interest, simple interest, all of that. And pretty much everything we do in small drops in a compounding environment, whether it's our financial investments, day-to-day habits, pretty much compound over a period of time. For leadership, as a leadership trait, any leader for that matter, and again, this is not designation driven, right? When I talk about leader, it could be anyone within the team. The small investments we do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's technology related, process, culture related, go a long way in building a very resilient organization, resilient culture in the long run, right? What we miss out is sometimes while we chase the bigger, larger vision, we tend to ignore some of the smaller day-to-day investments that we need to do, almost like a SIP in a investment scenario, right? If we spend time on that, including self-learning, one thing I normally talk to my team is about investing in ourselves, right? While we are very good at technology process and adapt very quickly as a culture, when it comes to soft skills, we always defer it to a later stage stating with experience, I would become a great orator or great communicator. It doesn't happen unless you invest every day. You need not become a flamboyant communicator, but if you need to articulate and you need to narrate the story. You need to get to that position. So smaller investments every day over a period of time, just in mathematics concept compounds, and that builds a strong culture. Second is factorization for me. Very passionate about numbers. So every leader, again, for me, leader is every individual in my team, in our team. So when I talk about factorization, take any mathematics concept, factor of 504 or any number, like, or somebody, you want to find the 1,000th root of a number. You don't directly look at how do I directly find the answer, right? You start breaking down 1,000 into 5 cube into 2 cube. That's how it is. Now it looks a bit simple because I need to find 3 square roots and 3 fifth roots, right? Similarly, in a day-to-day concept, when a leader or a team drives that, you need to break down every complex problem into smaller chunks. Then things start looking much better. A lot of times we get deeply buried into, oh, this problem looks too huge and I cannot probably, if you have the analytical ability or if you develop the analytical ability to break down into smaller chunks and identify teams, cohorts to drive a lot of those with a common goal, that helps a lot. So for me, these two stand out as, if I have to draw an analogy with mathematics and leadership, right, these two stand out.
Yeah, in fact, Anand, apart from sharing two wonderful parallels with compounding and factorization, I really liked how you said that, leader is not only by designation or by definition or position. I think today the definition of leadership itself is evolving quite a bit. But related to what you just said, the another math or statistic that we have observed in our interactions with leaders across the country, especially in the GCC sector, what we're hearing is that there is a belief that AI transformation is approximately 30% technology and 70% culture. Does that ratio resonate with you, and how does your own journey validate the math behind how culture accelerates AI adoption? Does it play a role, and what role does it play?
Yeah, broadly in line with, actually, I would even say 1090 for that matter. Technology is just an enabler to begin with, right? There are different tools. Tools are always available. Like I said, even back in 1990s and 2000s, we were doing AI in some form or shape. Just the tools have changed, tool sets have changed. A lot of, the digital transformation really helped in terms of how we use these tools. But the crux of it is the underlying, our understanding of the underlying data, right? So when we talk about culture, this is not just about how we behave or how people interact. It's the overarching theme of how well do I make an attempt to understand the broader company business and how it percolates across the entire organization, right? So going back to your question, in my opinion, technology is not more of a technology upgrade for me. It's about understanding the business of business, ensuring that it's pervasive across the organization. If I go to my HR team, they should be able to articulate how AI is going to benefit their day-to-day operations, right? If I go to my facilities team, they do a lot of manual invoice processing from vendors or routing with cab vendors, etc. Great opportunity for technology AI to play a role. But unless those teams have a buy-in and say, okay, this is going to improve my day-to-day operations, remove mundane tasks, and help me focus on something more productive. I mean, we could keep talking about new tools, etc. That's where our mindset also need to shift. This is not just about GCCs. The GCCs, when we hire from colleges, etc., it needs to start from there. So a lot of the colleges, universities today, when we go there, when we speak to them, the first question is always on, I mean, what language should I learn? Is it Python or SSS, all of that, right? You can name 25 languages, but none of those is going to solve the problems that we have. The only thing I advise them is try to understand the data underneath. Let's brush up some of the basics. Statistical modeling, all of that need to be taught through very well. Last but not the least, the domain. You need to understand how banking works, retail works, or a pharma works, and then tie it to the technology, AI concepts that we are talking about. So for me, it's either 30/70 or 20/80, 10/90, but it's more of the culture is about knowing the entire business, getting the right people, getting everyone in the team have a buy-in on that, and drive day-to-day operations through AI across the enterprise.
Thank you for that, Anand. In fact, what I'm taking back from what both Shalini and you have shared is that technology is just the starting point and possibly an enabler. But I think the larger journey is how you're able to understand the larger vision, align to it, and also inspire people to be on that journey with you. Before I go to my next question, just a reminder for the audience, if you have any questions that you would like us to discuss with Anand and Shalini, please do share your questions in the chat with us. But coming back to our conversation, again, a question for both of you. Since Anand, just before you concluded your last response, you did talk about how can we, how AI can be implemented across the organization. It's not just one function. It's something that, has to take the entire organization along. But we are seeing some mixed sentiment, right? Whether we speak to leadership teams of organizations, whether we speak to employees, there is a part of the organization that would be excited, somebody is curious, and many of them are right now still decoding whether they need to be afraid of AI. So, but when you think about an organization where AI adoption is not driven by fear, so people are not worried whether I will have my job in the next few months or will AI replace me, but more by ambition, will AI help my role enhance? Or will I grow a lot better and faster due to AI adoption? So how do we make that shift happen? How do we send the right messages to people that AI is firstly here to stay, it's here and it's here to stay. But how do you build that buy-in with employees, a segment that might be afraid right now? So a question to both of you. I would invite either of you to start and the next person to follow.
Okay. Shalini, go ahead, and then I'll.
Okay, all right. Sure. No, I think it's a very, very good point, Anita, because this fear of AI is quite real. I see it, I hear it from a lot of folks to say what's going to happen. We get questioned as consultants to the GCC world to say, is the GCC model going to disappear with all of what AI has in store? Is the India shining story going to dim a bit? But I think the opportunity is really to look beyond, to look at what technology is going to provide as an enabler. Like I said at the onset, I think it's certainly the model has already changed where it is about doing more with less. That doesn't mean we're seeing people get unemployed, but people getting redeployed. So it's about putting people to work in areas that they can leverage the technology, but for which the fundamental realization of what technology is doing to one's world, there needs to be a self-realization around it. I think that's growing. I think today people see it. The writing is on the wall in terms of what is going to change. And there are different paths to it. Not everything clearly is a threat, right? It's about how can you make your role easier, your everyday job easier? How can you leverage technology to be a lot more efficient? There's some very fundamental stuff that you can do to actually release up time in your day where you could deploy it elsewhere and do things differently and better. The second is an acute awareness of where is the organization headed with this. So what does it mean for your industry, for your organization, for your business, and then your specific function or role? That appreciation, top down, cascading to your role, the more The sooner you understand and appreciate that, the better your ability to adapt to what that future looks like. You can start contributing to making that change and making that difference. Like I said, starting at a role, to the function, to the business, to the organization at large, and it kind of moves up in that order. So an appreciation of where is your organization, how can you make that difference. The third is culturally for an organization. Of course, most organizations today are doing en masse training, so they enhance the levels of awareness of AI and training people. But it is also culturally required where you allow people to experiment a bit. The opportunity to experiment and fail, and having some tolerance for that, so people learn. So there has to be a learning culture built internally where people can experiment and are allowed to actually truly adopt and embrace AI in the way they should. Because if you do that, people will see the opportunity that AI presents, allowing them to actually enrich their roles and grow, while of course also letting go with things that AI can do for you. So it's as much about embracing to let go and then grow. I think that's how I see it happening alongside.
Thanks for that, Shalini. Anand, over to you.
Sure. Yeah, I think Shalini covered quite a few of the points. Again, AI is here to stay. There'll be new forms and shape over the next 5-10 years. It's not going away anywhere. Number two, we need to realize there are certain functions which should be done very differently compared to the last decade. That acceptance need to be there. Could be the documentation processes, validations that we do. Definitely, there is a lot of machine learning opportunities there to automate a lot of those. Even voice, we speak about contact center, call centers, etc., where again, the intent is not to just do it with less number of agents, but we have seen a lot of the large companies. As a customer, every day we interact more with bots and AI rather than human in the loop, right? The intent from a company perspective is going to be how can I channelize some of my subject matter experts to attend to complex queries that come from the customer, while AI takes care of a lot of the basic questions. If somebody says, hey, when is my payment due? You don't need a contact center agent to sit there and respond stating it is due in 1 month, right? That could be AI driven. But when it comes to taxation, calculations, escrow, and so some of them, repurpose. So upskilling is going to be there. So there is an opportunity. So the narrative needs to, as a leader within the organization, all of us have a role to play to constantly talk about how these risks are going to be converted as opportunities. It's not a one-day thing. It's not going away. There will be the natural human tendency to say, what happens to my job and so on. So, but it needs to be explained with examples. I mean, walking the talk here is really going to be important. You need to pick examples and say, this is how my metrics or the business metrics is going to be impacted. Number three, anything we do around AI, right? It needs to be grounds up. People need to come up with ideas. It needs to start from, let's say I'm doing 10 steps in a process, right? I need to incentivize my associate there to say, do you need to really do those 10 steps every day? Can't we just do away with 3 or 4 steps? Or if my developer is coding something, now there are a lot of tools available where he or she could just spend 20% of their time to take that framework and then focus on building the actual product, right? So looking at all these examples, if we can incentivize this, if we actually say, if you identify 3 process reengineering efficiencies tomorrow, and it could be a benefit in terms of a monetary one or something related to any benefit, right? People need to see that in action. It can't be just direction stating, go ahead and automate. Last but not the least, Shalini spoke about training, etc. So I'm not going there. But AI need to be linked to the core metrics in all our goals, etc. Gone are the days where your goals were related to how much revenue you made, what was the effort, schedule deviation, all of that. Those standard metrics have gone. You need to shift to where do I make revenue or where do I actually lose revenue? If your COO or CFO can do a small video bite and say, if we do these steps wrong, I lose $1 million or I'll get into a legal suit, then people will stand up and say, okay, now I'm actually handling this process. Why can't I help the company do better? That level of connect needs to be there to drive home the message, to move it from I mean, it's not going to be about, we need to fear about AI. There is an opportunity, but we need to take baby steps.
No, absolutely. I think such wonderful, practical, and realistic insights for people to go back with and really make the right shift in their organization. Two things that I picked up among a lot of insightful inputs from both of you were, like Anand, you said, it's about channelizing people towards solving more complex problems as against, solving some of the mundane issues on a day-to-day basis. So people are actually going to get freed up for better quality work, and that also goes back to a sense of purpose that some of you talked about earlier. And I also really liked what Shalini talked about. The last thing I noted down in my notes was also about when she mentioned we are not talking about unemployment here. It's about redeployment of workforce, bringing them to better tasks. So picking on what both of you shared around that, and Shalini, you also mentioned this earlier. So my next question to you is, when you talked about at the start of our interaction about the GCC model having evolved, over the past 2.5 decades, 2 to 3 decades, and but the last 2 to 5 years, there has been accelerated transformation, if I may call it so. But it's not stopping here. The next 2 to 3 years will also redefine some of the workforce models that exist. How do you see that changing, Shalini? If you could shed some light on, how do you see the GCCs of India redesigning some of the workforce models going forward?
Great question. And there's a lot changing there, Anita. So, like I said, if one tracked that journey of 25, 30 years of evolution, and most recently, a couple of things I'll repeat myself to say it is about doing more with less. It's about being very deliberate and focused to create very specific capabilities. And that's what the GCC model has come to. And when we talk about that, the other trend that is very clear and obvious is GCCs today don't come in to do it all themselves. They work with the partner ecosystem and they're kind of getting super efficient and effective at the way they do that. So they're not here to build everything on their own. They're happy to borrow talent to co-create with what is the gig workforce or the transient workforce, to create an experiment and do it in a way that's super effective. So that's one big aspect that is changing in the workforce models as well. And we see that very clearly. We advise that to many of our clients to say, as you're building your teams for the future, be very deliberate about what you want to hire. So you hire only for the long haul, for skills that you know you want to sustain and build and create deep capabilities. For things that are typically more near, immediate term, short term, why not just borrow skills from the market that are available to actually help you with your near term immediate tasks? And so there is a big opportunity to borrow some of that, and then there's a third opportunity to co-create. I mean, if you look at the GCC ecosystem, it's tech service providers, it is startups, all of that coming together that make this model really robust and agile, actually. And like I said, agility is at the core. So as you do that, if you can infuse your organization with some of what startups do very well in terms of bringing in or upping that innovation quotient, so to speak, that's how you're really going to take advantage of workforce modeling in the way you should. So today, like I said, if you embrace all of this, you can actually create a very effective model going forward, one that will be agile, one that you can disband if it's created in a way that brings that agility in. So I would say that's at the core of workforce modeling as I see it, and that is the future.
Thank you for that wonderful insight, Shalini. Like you also mentioned earlier, it's such a people-centric organization. GCCs are so people-centric that keeping in mind that you don't have to really hire everyone. You need to have the horizon for how long do you need a certain skill set, and then plan your workforce accordingly. And there are so many workforce models that are prevalent and even emerging as we speak. So thank you for that. Now, when I look at what Shalini was talking about, Anand, my next question is to you. I also saw some questions briefly in the chat, and we'll be moving to audience questions shortly. Anand, just wanted to understand your thoughts on what long-term careers may look like in an AI native GCC going forward, and how do you think roles are being re-looked at? How are skills and pathways also evolving, given that AI is becoming a colleague in the workplace now?
Sure. Partly covered that earlier, but to begin with, uh, certain things are here to stay. One, in terms of we need to continue to deepen our knowledge in domain. Something which I see as an opportunity still. Not every organization has been able to do that because historically, India had been positioned as an IT and ITES hub, right? So even today, that's what is pervasive in universities, colleges. But what is missing or partly missing is with evolution of GCC, I should say, that's being addressed partly because every GCC is specialized in a particular domain. So number one, we need to continue to invest on the domain knowledge, domain specialists, domain consultants. If we are talking business, you get your parent company's attention, right? Otherwise, normally they tend to see you as more of an execution arm or process-driven arm, etc. Pretty well, a lot of the postures in terms of adapting to the situation is always there. But once we start talking in business terms, that really goes a long way. That's number one. So while everyone cannot learn all the domain, we need to make a conscious effort right from probably even fourth year of college to introduce electives around core banking concept, core pharma concept, core retail concepts. By the time when people get in first 5 years, they could try to branch out in any different domain, right? That's perfectly okay. But once you are into a corporate world, people need to deepen their domain knowledge. That's one. Number two, with AI coming in full flow, the underlying skill sets that I would focus on, I saw a question on the chat also. So data analytics need to continue to build skills on that, right? While in the past, it's still an emerging area, but our understanding of data has been always limited to doing transformation, data governance, etc. Analytics, and that's where I said during my first introduction question, statistical modeling. We would have all done a course on probability statistics in our college, but again, probably as a 3-unit, 4-unit course, but never did a deep dive. It's time to brush up statistical modeling and analytics and make an effort to understand if I'm given this entire data space, how I'm going to build meaningful models on top of it. Remember, right from social media, if your data is bad, your analytical models are bad, what you get is garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. So our data analytics, data model capability, it's a huge opportunity. Every university, every company, every industry has to invest. It doesn't matter whether GCCs or IT services are among them. Three, while we do all this, we shouldn't lose track of data protection and information security. So we need to there is a lot of space, opportunity in the information security space. Again, we have just scraped this thing, right? Edge at this point in time. Information security is not just about a cybersecurity career. It unfortunately is getting into, okay, should I learn some of these tools, ethical hacking, all of that? It's not just about that. It's about appreciating how a company's boundaries are protected, what data gets shared, how encryption works, all of that, right? It's a much broader space. So that would be one. While last but not the least, roles like prompt engineers, AI governance architects, these are all talked about in various forums. Definitely, those are going to be roles that companies look for, but the foundation is in all the other 3 or 4 I spoke about. These are only designations. What we should not get carried away is what I do not want to happen is colleges, universities now launching a BE for AI governance tomorrow, right? It should not happen. It needs to be more around the fundamentals leading to AI governance, architect, prompt engineers kind of roles. And this is cutting across. This is not just entry-level jobs. All managers, leaders need to embrace this. We need to move away from a pure play project management role to a more of a tech domain-driven leadership role.
Thank you for that, Anand. I'm also realizing you landed up responding to some of the audience questions that have come up already. I think somebody wanted to know what are the top 3 skills to look at. And I think both Shalini and you in so many ways have talked about domain expertise and, knowing your core, getting your fundamentals right, and getting your data right, of course, as a part of the fundamentals. I'm moving into some of the audience questions now, and either of you are welcome to respond as you like. One of the questions that we've received is the senior leadership team in India, senior leaders across India, are they doing enough in creating a culture of supporting and guiding employees in embracing this title shift? And what actions should they take to facilitate this process?
Shalini, you can go ahead.
I think we may have touched upon it
Yeah.
a bit, but clearly, there is an opportunity to do a lot more. Like I said, there are most organizations today have en masse trainings to create and enhance awareness levels. But there are also a lot of the internal hackathons that I think create a good environment where one is constantly throwing the real business problems out to your teams to say, let's together solve some of these. So there's a lot happening there. There could be more showcasing of real examples that demonstrate, and I think there's an opportunity to do more of that, where you create role models, create examples of good stuff that's happening within the organization. I would say also expose your people to what's happening around you. So don't be overly inward looking, but invite peers, invite sometimes competition to come and share a little about how they're doing. It can do wonders when you expose them to what else is happening in their industry. There could be a lot more happening on some of those fronts, and encourage people. See, end of the day, people are also, they work to kind of satiate an individual purpose. So give them that satisfaction of learning. Drive people to let them see what the learning is going to get them in terms of enhancing their personal professional experience. So if they can take away and connect the dots with every project they do, with every assignment that they're working on, if they can see how it's adding to their personal professional profile and learning, it can be very rewarding. So remind them that, here's what it's and how it's enhancing their individual experience. Sometimes we don't do enough of that. But I think getting people to stop and take cognizance of that can also make a big difference. Those are just a few quick thoughts, Anita.
Yeah, just to add to that, if I may, given the question was also actions senior leaders should be taking. Again, we had covered in some of the earlier questions. For me, it's about, again, this is an opportunity where you have to lead or lead by example, right? And actually showcase examples. If there is an opportunity, each company's structure is a bit different, but majority of the GCCs today do a lot of different functions, not limited to one particular portfolio, right? So if you have a technology organization, risk and compliance, operations, and other corporate functions, make sure that these leaders, these teams are talking daily, right? People need to come out of their boundaries. If people operate within their boundary, stating, this is my operations world, this is technology world, end of the day, none of them is going to benefit. Increase the collaboration, and not just for the sake of stating to have 2-3 meetings every month and go ahead, right? In fact, have meaningful sessions where a technology team can go to the operations floor and actually stand and see how an operator performs. They are your end users. If you are not understanding your end users, you are not delivering the right product, right? That is an opportunity for the operations team in turn to say, okay, my technology team is here next to me. I'm doing 5 clicks to reach to this final submit button. Can you do something like a one-click option, right? Now ideas flow. So make that happen within the organization. I think a lot of the times we look external and say things could be better. There is a lot more to break the boundaries, break the silos to do that. Giving my example, if I take my example, I come from a technology background for the first 18, 20 years. I've done operations, etc., but I was never the core business operations guy. But in my last 10 years, I had the opportunity to manage operations team. But I know the experts are within my team, right? I'm going to learn from them. Now it gave me a greater sense of how tech and ops world are very different, but also there was an opportunity for me to bring these together. So if we can talk about, when I say we, each of us can talk about the journey practical problems, then people would listen. If it is a very high level, a LinkedIn kind of a story statement stating, be the leader, walk the talk, etc. I mean, your junior most folks will say, okay, at another write up and go away. Please walk the talk and actually narrate with right examples.
Thank you for that, Shalini and Anand. I'm mindful there are questions just flowing in. We may just pick up one more audience question for now. Very interestingly, somebody has talked about, how do you influence your global leaders to become a strategic partner to them? So I'm just summarizing the question. I think you briefly touched upon how domain expertise is the way to build your credibility. And anyways, there's a shift happening from cost arbitrage to a value proposition based partnership with the global entity or the parent company. But any additional thoughts on how do you influence your global leadership to become that strategic partner that Indian GCCs want to be? Also, Shalini, open to your thoughts. Either of you may want to talk about it.
I can just very quickly. So we may have covered it in a few formats, but I think firstly you earn that respect and that credibility based on what you've delivered. We come across a lot of GCCs who are constantly looking at what more can I do, how can I become a strategic partner. A lot of what you deliver today, the outcomes and the potential outcomes is what will earn you that credibility for your global leadership to say, oh yeah, this is all, there's so much more that I can get done from here. So I think it's about capabilities you build and what you demonstrate as potential that's going to earn you some of that. A lot of GCCs today do a lot of their experimentation. So they may not be having an entire scope of processes with them. They do some work, but they parallelly start investing to look at what more can they do beyond the few silos that they may be servicing, and demonstrating to global leadership that there's an opportunity to break those silos, to make an impact across that end-to-end value chain and actually sit in that transformation chair, which most GCCs are attempting to do. Of course, I do believe that this requires some empowerment, some sponsorship from the global leaders, as well as you should have the enabling environment to do that. If you are only sitting with some slivers of processes, there is so much you can do. But even there, I think if you demonstrate capability, that goes a long way in convincing your global leadership on what's possible. The one other thing, and I'll touch upon a point that I saw earlier on, GCC leadership needs to have the ambition as well. They need to step up to the opportunity and raise their hand and demonstrate to global leadership on what else they can do. So it's a combination of mandate from onshore and HQ. It's a combination of ambition and capabilities that come together then to kind of really unlock value in some sense.
Yeah.
Anand, you may want to add to that.
Sure. Again, keeping it brief, in terms of it's a work in progress, to be honest, right? In terms of none of the organizations, maybe I don't want to broad brush it, but it takes time to Shalini's point, build that trust. You need to earn the trust first, right? Whether we like it or not. This is not about the services model, but just the fact that a parent group is setting up something 10,000 miles away, and for them, from day one, questions are around how is my compliance managed, legal managed. So build a trust. So that's very important, stakeholder trust, because it just takes one bad event to completely break the trust. It may take a year or two to build it, but a minute to probably break that, right? So need to be conscious of that. Second, from a majority of the global leaders, execs understand India talent landscape capabilities. They may not know to the extent of what skills are available where, but they do understand that in terms of how the work gets done, how efficiently things happen, and so on. Follow the sun model. So those are given. I don't think we need to do a sales pitch again and again in terms of 24/7. In fact, probably we need to move away slightly from those. The challenges that we typically would encounter is there will be resistance. Again, imagine it. There are other parameters which come in, right? End of the day, people are very particular about having teams around them and work in a closed environment. Who won't like that? Even we would like people to be in and around within our office space. And to manage that, we need to constantly educate about how the time zones of difference does not impact them, and how tools and technologies today enable us to be. COVID taught us how to work anywhere from anywhere, right? So it's very important to constantly educate. And also from a GCC angle, we kind of try to remove this onshore offshore model, right? Because it creates like the vendor kind of scenario. Because you are at another site for them. If there is a California, Dallas, and Detroit site, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad becomes another site for them. We need to reach a stage where people start calling, okay, my site in Chennai does this, right? Rather than stating my offshore team does this. Now there is a difference in the way it gets perceived. So need to change the narrative, but is it easier to do? Easier said than done. Lastly, the teams there also, for good reasons, there are compliance and legal needs based on which certain things cannot be done from India, right? So you need to be mindful of what can be pushed here. Somebody had an end-to-end process view. We could do a lot of the processes, technology-related work, data analytics, finance work from India pretty much, right? But anything which involves decision-making, legal or compliance related, pretty much stays with the parent group. So we need to be mindful of that when we structure that. And also we need to have that leadership connect. To Shalini's point, be in the right forum to influence. When you're having constant conversations with your leadership team there, make sure that you carry them along in every conversation, keep them updated and transparent about all the conversations.
Yeah, thank you for that, Shalini and Anand. And one recurring theme throughout has been, earning credibility by doing and through actions and demonstrating that you've earned your seat on the table beyond the other things, of course, that you shared. I'm going to just ask you a couple of rapid fire questions and then invite my colleague Tanya for a closing note. So just the quick answers, banking on Anand and Shalini on your experience. Diving right in, if you could delete one corporate buzzword forever, what word would that be?
I can go first, or
Yeah, please.
yeah, this probably may not be a popular one, but fail fast would be my thing. I mean, not that coming from a tech background, a lot of people say this, right? Fail fast, but for me, unfortunately, that gets interpreted in different ways. It does not necessarily work in every company setup. Rather than fail fast, I will say scale smart. That's a different way to position it in front of the team, because fail fast kind of indicates it's okay to fail every time or do any mistake, we will move forward. Doesn't work, especially in a very compliance regulatory scenario. And when you're doing work 10,000 miles away, you don't want to keep failing fast every day. You need to scale smart and prove that you can deliver anything in work.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anand. Shalini, your corporate buzzword that you want to delete from the dictionary.
I have a few, but I would say low-hanging fruit. I'm a little tired of that. I think that tends to be very myopic and very jugadu in nature. We need to take a long-term sustainable view at things. So I would delete low-hanging fruit actually. Never liked that one too much.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Shalini. And my second and possibly the last rapid fire question for now, but definitely have the last couple of minutes in closing remarks. One global stereotype about India GCCs that you wish would finally disappear.
For me, it would be clearly completely moving away from being looked at a low-cost cost arbitrage center to a value proposition center.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anand. I'm sure that's resonating with a lot of people representing GCCs in our audience. Shalini, over to you.
I would say the same. I think cost arbitrage and back office, which we still hear even in today's day and age, really need to completely disappear, I think. Though cost arbitrage has to stay, it's just implicit. Yeah.
Fair enough, Shalini. Thank you, Anand and Shalini. I'm going to just request everyone to stay back for the last few minutes. Please do share your feedback with us, and also handing over to Tanya on that note for the closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Anita. And what a powerful discussion that was, right? A very big thank you to Shalini and Anand for bringing such depth and clarity to today's theme. Where else would we find such value addition and such thought leadership, right? And to our moderator, Anita, of course, for guiding the conversation so thoughtfully. It's been an absolute honor. And now, before we move ahead, as always, we'd love to hear from you. How was your overall feedback of today's webinar? You'll see a quick poll pop up on your screen. Just a simple rating from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. It'll only take a few seconds, but your feedback really helps us make each session sharper and more relevant. Please go ahead. The poll would be on your screen. Please take a moment to share your thoughts. We'd wait for another 10 seconds if we could please quickly plug in our feedback. Please be sure to respond to the feedback poll. We really value the feedback. And with that, we wrap up today's edition of the GCC Leadership Series. This is just the beginning, and we will be back with more conversations as a part of the GCC Leadership Series, of course. Please stay tuned. This is your host signing off. Until next time, let's keep building great workplaces together. Have a wonderful afternoon.